Hey guys, welcome back to another video of Golden Brothers Vlogs. I changed the name to Golden Family Vlogs, and today we will be reading The Collector by K.R. Alexander. We're gonna read chapter 5 to 7, and yeah, so I hope you guys like this. Jonathan's Audiobooks. Okay, let's go. By lunchtime, I had decided that my new school was horrible, and I was going to move back to Chicago tonight whether mom wanted to or not. I call a taxi. I get a plane ticket. There was no way I would stay in this school. Even though it's only the first day of class, everyone already had their friend groups and no one would let me in. It was like I was wearing a huge sign that said, "New City Girl." Kids giggled whenever I said my name or answered a question. I stopped answering questions after second period math class. A couple stopped and whispered to each other when I walked by the halls. What had they heard about me? Others crashed into me as if they wanted to see how I'd react. I don't think I'd ever felt my face to blush so much in my life. Running into the woods behind Grandma Jeannie's sounded like a much better time than this. The cafeteria was its own kind of forest. There I was, at lunch, sitting at the end of a table all by myself. I didn't know what I'd been served. Some sort of meatloaf covered in brown gunk. Mashed potatoes that were clearly from a box. Frostbitten peas. A brownie that was as hard as a rock. It probably tasted like a rock, too. I didn't eat meat. It made me wish I was back at my old school. At least there we could get the salad bar. I imagined if I asked the lunch staff here for a salad, they'd give me a plate of grass. Tears formed in my eyes as I pushed the food around on my plate. I was hungry, and I was homesick, and I hated it here. Back home, I'd be eating lunch with my best friends. They were doing it right now. We'd laugh about our science teacher, or talk about which kids we thought we were cute. Then we'd plan to hang out later, after school. I missed them, all of them. I couldn't even call or text because I couldn't get reception anywhere in this backward town. I hated this place. "Can I sit here?" a girl's voice above me asked. I didn't look up. It was probably someone playing another joke, and I didn't want to be the punchline again. "Excuse me?" That made me look. I'd been bumped into a dozen times in the hall, and no one had said excuse me. Especially not with that accent. She didn't sound like she was from around here, like me. For a moment, I thought maybe she was imaginary. She was definitely not from around here. She was in really nice jeans and a simple black top, and she had tons of bracelets on her arms and perfectly manicured nails. She also wore a vintage locket on a gold chain around her neck. Her hair was long and curly. When she smiled, she had huge dimples, and she was wearing makeup, but unlike anyone else here, she knew how to put it on. She looked familiar somehow, but maybe that was because she looked like someone I see in Chicago, not someone I seen here. "Hi?" I asked. She laughed. Why was that a question? "Because I don't know why you're talking to me." I looked around at the rest of the cafeteria. Everyone here pretends I don't exist, unless they're making fun of me. The girl looked around the lunchroom. "Don't worry about them. They're simple." She said simple like it was a curse word. And it made me suddenly grateful that she didn't think I was simple. She set down her lunchbox and held out her hand. "I'm Vanessa." "Josie," I said, taking her hand. She had a very firm shake, and her fingers were cold. "May I sit?" I didn't realize she was still waiting for my permission. I nodded. "Thank you," she replied. She sat down, but she didn't start eating. "So," she said, looking at me intently, "you're new here?" "Yeah, my sister and I moved in with my grandma yesterday. I'm from Chicago." "Why would you leave Chicago for this?" I almost answered with the truth. Mom lost her job and Grandma was losing her memories. But then I remembered this. This Vanessa girl wasn't one of my old friends, and I barely knew her. "Mom wanted to change from the city," I said. And I hoped that made us sound sophisticated, not lost. "Definitely a big change," Vanessa said. "Well, don't worry, Josie. I'll take care of you." I didn't know how to respond to that, so instead I pushed around the meatloaf a little more. "My first job as your friend is to tell you not to eat that," Vanessa went on. "I think it's the same loaf they served last year." I told her I was vegetarian, and she said she thought she was the only one in the whole town, or had been, until I came along. I don't know why that made me feel better, but it did. At least I felt a little less alone. She started telling me about which teachers were good and which were bad, and which kids I needed to avoid, which is pretty much everyone. The way she described the place, it seemed like she was the only one she was the only one here who might understand me. And looking around, I believed it. The kids who watched us stared openly. I felt like a zoo animal. I turned my attention back to Vanessa. Having her there made me feel a lot less singled out. I listened intently. I was so caught up in what she said I didn't even notice that I'd eaten most of my peas and managed not to break my teeth on the brownie. By the time the lunch bell rang, I still hated it here, but I hated it a little less than before. Chapter 6. Vanessa was a lifesaver. She walked next to my class. She walked me to my next class after lunch. Somehow, just having her around made my life easier. No one bumped into me in the halls and no one called me names. In fact, it almost seemed like people stepped out of the way when we passed, if they seemed to be paying me any attention. It was more out of shock than anything else. I knew what they were thinking. How did the new girl become friends with the coolest girl in school? Honestly, didn't know how either. Gracias, mami. Raspado, shaved ice, yes. So good. But I wasn't about to question it. Not when she seemed like the only thing that kept me from getting shoved into a locker on accident. A few periods later, I stepped into my English classroom, nervous as always, and there was Vanessa. I'd spent the day having to find a seat beside people who clearly didn't want me around, based on the Snickers or the pieces of paper that got thrown at me. This time, though, Vanessa smiled like she'd been waiting for me. She moved her books from the desk beside her so I could sit here. Had it really been that easy? Had I really just made such a good friend? All through that class, no one giggled, no one threw anything at me, not even when I raised my hand to answer a question. Vanessa was even waiting for me after school. While the rest of the kids ran off to catch a bus or a ride home, she stood outside by the flagpole. Once again, she smiled when she saw me. Before I could walk over to her, Anna stepped beside me. The school was so small, they had all the grade levels in one building. "How was your first day of third grade?" I asked her. We started walking toward Vanessa. "I hate it," she replied. "Oh no, why?" She didn't seem want to answer at first. Instead, she reached into her backpack and pulled out her little teddy bear. "Kids were mean to me," she said. She sounded like she wanted to cry. "They were mean to me too," I replied. "But look, I made a friend." "I'm Vanessa," Vanessa said, shaking Anna's hand. "You must be Anna. Josie told me so much about you." I couldn't remember saying anything to her about Anna, but that wasn't surprising. We talked a lot about lunch, and I probably mentioned Anna at some point. Besides, Anna was smiling so hard at being noticed I didn't want to question it. "How was your first day?" Vanessa asked. "Kids were mean to me," Anna said. She took my hand and she said it. "I want to go home." Vanessa looked concerned, but then her smile returned. "You don't want to go home. It's only the first day. I'm sure you'll make a new friend soon." "Everyone hates me," Anna replied. "Oh, don't say that. I'm sure there are some great people you haven't met yet. You just have to give it some time." Vanessa reached into her purse and pulled out a piece of candy. "I'm not supposed to take candies from strangers," Anna said diligently. I could tell she really wanted to take it. She'd always had a sweet tooth. No. It's fine. "I'm not a stranger. I'm Josie's new friend, which means we'll be friends too, even after you make one of your own." Anna smiled and took the candy. Vanessa handed me a piece. "Do you want to come over to our house?" Anna asked. "That's so polite of you," Vanessa said. It made me wish I asked first. I was going to, but it seemed awkward, especially since it was only our second day with Grandma Jeannie. I was partly relieved when Vanessa said next. "I'm afraid I have to go home and take care of my aunt. Maybe next time. I just wanted to make sure Josie got through the day okay." "I did," I told her. "Thanks." Vanessa smiled like I'd given her the biggest compliment. Good. See you at lunch tomorrow. It was a pleasure meeting you, Anna. Vanessa turned and walked away. I wondered if her aunt was going to pick her up or she would walk home. The school was in the middle of nowhere, and the town seemed like a very long way to walk, if that was where she actually lived. I hadn't gotten around to asking her. She's really cool, Anna said, watching Vanessa go. You're lucky. I wish I had a friend like her. You will, I said, pointing to the parking lot before she could start getting sad. But look, there's Mom. Anna did a little jump and let go of my hand to run over to Mom's car. I felt the little bubble of happiness inside me deflate. Meeting Vanessa had made my day, but now I had remembered I had to go back to a house with no TV and no internet and barely any cell phone reception. It made me wish Vanessa had accepted Anna's offer to come over, though I was still a little worried that Grandma Jeannie would only manage to scare her away. So guys, that was chapter 5 and 6, and no, that was chapter 5 and 6, and that was The Collector by K.R. Alexander. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please give it a like button and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to get notified every time I post a video. Well, see you all next time. Bye.